Welcome back to the 2020 Javelina Virtual Coaches Caravan, coming to you live from Macaulay Hall via the Mendoza's Pharmacy Javelina Sports Network. And our third coach of the day, our third guest of the day is the head baseball coach, Jason Gonzalez. Coach Gonzalez, thank you for taking the time to talk with us this morning.
Mark, it's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to it.
Now, 2020 season for you guys obviously didn't really go the way you thought. So many times you guys measure success or failure in a season by whether or not you win a championship, whether it's a Lone Star Conference championship or a regional championship. Obviously, that opportunity didn't exist for your program this season. But how do you assess your team's play, the way the season went overall?
Well, I think we what do we have? 22 games, I think, is what we ended up playing, and we started out very well. Started out playing very good baseball, and then went on the road and had a tough series at West Texas, and then held our own against the next opponent in St. Edwards, and then lost a couple at St. Mary's. So we were in the part of our season where we were going to have to find out a little bit about ourselves, which is typical for early season in a baseball season. The problem was it was in conference. We had 50 conference games, and so you didn't have the luxury of playing some different guys and maybe pitching some different guys. So we were in a stretch where, okay, now we were going to have to kind of find out a little bit about ourselves and dig a little deeper, and then they, cut the water faucet off on us.
What was that final meeting, final time you got to spend with your team like, having to let them know that unfortunately they weren't going to be able to complete the season?
Well, we were on a bus to Odessa, Texas. On a Thursday. We left, 6 in the morning. And so I guess around lunchtime is when we started seeing some different things develop, and, the world basically started shutting down. And so it wasn't looking promising. We got to about 30 minutes outside of Odessa and got a phone call that says, hey, you're not playing this weekend. Go ahead and turn around. So we spent 17 hours on a bus. And to find out that our season up to that point was suspended. We didn't really know what was going on. We kind of had an idea that once it got suspended, it probably wasn't going to be picked back up. And so I didn't exactly know what we needed to tell our team because there were so many unknowns. But one of the things that we tell our players all the time is you've got to play like it's your last game. And we tell our seniors, man, these 4 years are going to go really fast, and they didn't realize how fast it was actually going. So one of the things we talk about in our program so often is, if you're at practice, one of the things we say all the time is you can't panic. Whether we're teaching a bunt defense or first and thirds or whatever it is we're going through, you can't panic, because nothing good will ever happen when you panic. And so one of the message was, unfortunately, I think what you're going to see is a lot of panic. You're going to see a lot of panic by some people that need to make some very important decisions. And so we started to see that. We started to see seasons, shut down. This one's closed. That one's, the world stopped. And so we told them, unfortunately, this is what panic looks like. And so that's why we tell you to be prepared for anything that may come your way, because nothing good will ever happen when we panic. And so we saw a bunch of panic.
The good news for the seniors, obviously, is NCAA is willing to give them that year of eligibility back. Obviously, it's not a perfect solution for everybody, but how much of a relief was it for you knowing that you weren't losing your seniors?
Well, we felt really good for them because, normally you can kind of see if and when a season's coming to an end, whether you're playing really well and you get into postseason play, and then at that point in time, it's, either you win or you go home, or maybe you're not having a good season, and you can see the last game on the season, you got that scheduled or you got it circled, so you can kind of see when it's coming to an end. And this one, you had absolutely no idea it was coming to an end. And then you had to spend months and months of 10 seniors not knowing what their fate was. So I was extremely pleased and happy for these guys to give them an option to finish it out, like it should have been finished. And then we had to reach out to every single one of them because just about all these guys were on track to graduate or did graduate. Some of them have plans lined up, jobs lined up, and so we had to reach out to these guys and see what their plans were. And it was a tough decision for a couple of them. They said, "Coach, I'm graduating. I've got a job lined up. It's time for me to move on," which obviously they had our blessing to do that. And then we had another group of guys that said, "You know what? I'm going to play until they tear the jersey off of me." And so you were excited to see those guys to be able to come back too. So it's so now we got a big roster.
Season obviously normally has a pretty definitive ending, but this one didn't. Given the difference to the end of the season, was there a different message from you to your athletes heading into the off season?
Well, it was, again, you wanted to give them some information. I just didn't have information to give them. And so we had an older group, so those guys had been in our program for, some 4 or 5 years. So they knew the work ethic that was going to be required when they showed back up. So the message was, and it continues to still be the message today, you've got to continue to work out. You've got to get some baseball stuff done. You got to hit the weights, and if it's important to you, you're going to find a way. If it's not, you're going to find an excuse not to get it done. And so we've got a great group of guys, and man, they're just chomping at the bit, waiting for us to tell them, "Hey, let's go practice." What
has this off season been like for you and your staff?
It's been challenging. It really has. It's been what seems like a bunch of hurry up and wait. Shut down recruiting, and then until this date, and then you get a little bit closer to that date, and then it's extended for another month, and then it just continued to get extended. And so it was a good 2 or 3 weeks for me personally of just almost being in shock. Like in 42 years, I've never spent a spring not on a baseball field from the time I was 8 years old until today. And so it was rough early on, and then I realized, I better get busy doing some things. And I went home and I told my wife, I said, I think they're going to shut down the season. And she said, "Well, good. Here's a list of things I need you to do around the house." So I got a bunch of those things done that I wouldn't normally get done. So you had to see the positive in everything, and you just couldn't sit around feeling sorry for yourself. We had to get up and live.
The fans, remember, you can contribute to different programs on campus, including Javelina Baseball, by visiting javelinagiving.org/oneday or texting Go Hogs to 202-858-1233. Your support means a lot to each of the coaches running these programs, and let us feel champions for you both on and off the field. Coach, how much contact have you had with your team throughout the offseason?
Not a lot, actually. Reached out to just about all of them individually. Didn't reach out to them collectively as a team because I didn't have anything to give them. I know everybody was doing Zoom calls, and after you've been on 2 or 3 of those, man, you've been on them, so those those are only emergencies now. But I did reach out to these guys to make sure that they were okay and see what was going on, and everybody was pretty much doing the same thing, trying to work out. But there wasn't a whole lot of contact because there wasn't a lot of information I could give them.
You and your staff are normally super active in recruiting. I know your assistant coach Middleton is normally driving all points north, south, east, and west in the search of players who would be perfect fits for your program. How has this affected your ability to try and recruit and bring in new players?
Well, it was a challenge. Coach Middleton, he spends thousands of miles and hundreds of hours on the road away from the family, and it's a tough job. It's a thankless job, and luckily for our program, he's got a very supportive wife in Sarah, so she understands what's going on. But it was tough for him too because he's normally looking to get out as much as he can, and so he had to be creative in how we went about recruiting. And so, I mean, he didn't miss a beat in terms of being a relentless recruiter. He was on the phone. He was talking to different kids, different players, different coaches, different contacts, and did a tremendous job under the circumstances. And, I was so excited for the first day of school to meet some of the guys that we signed, which was unheard of. There were guys that I'd never had seen face-to-face until they got here on campus. So it was a challenge. It's still a challenge today, but considering the circumstances, Coach Middleton did a phenomenal job in recruiting.
I know you guys are chomping at the bit to get back to finally be able to begin baseball activities again. What kind of a plan do you have in place for when you guys finally do get to go ahead to practice and play?
We've always had what we thought was a very good off-season program, from weights to individual skill work to group work to team practices, inter squads. But there's going to be some things that I don't believe we're going to be able to do. So at some point in time, they're going to tell us, you can practice, you can start on this date, and you can end on this date. So what we've got to determine is how much time we have in between those dates, and then what we have to determine is what's important, what can we get done. And so we've had probably, 5, 6, 7, 10 plans in place, just waiting for somebody to tell us you can do this, you can start here. But it's going to look different. We're pretty sure about that. But I think good organizations, good players, good coaches are going to adapt. We can complain about what's going on till we're blue in the face. That doesn't get us anywhere. So as soon as they say go, we're going to adapt and we're going to go get it done somehow.
You and your staff talk about the pack mentality a lot and how that's an integral part of the culture and the program that you've built. What is the meaning behind that saying and behind what that conveys, the kind of the message you send to your players?
The pack is really a mentality. And so we needed a system that would seek to develop a young man mentally, physically, and spiritually. And what the pack mentality basically does, it transcends baseball, the game of baseball. It's not just about baseball. It's a mentality that starts with culture, okay? And for us, our culture is going to be built on empowering these student athletes, give them some say. It's got to be innovative. And for us, culture, it never takes a day off. It's who we are. It's what we believe in. Their talent can take them as far as their talent's the ceiling. Culture is the foundation. And so we have to set that foundation. There has to be a very clear message on who we are, where we're going. For us, who we are is the pack. Where we're going is attempting to be elite, attempting to win a championship, attempting to play for a national championship. How are we going to get there? Through a tremendous amount of hard work. And so the pack mentality is it's an acquired taste. It's not easy. It's not fun. It's not meant to be. But the first thing we're going to ask these players to do when they get here is to humble themselves. Because now it's no longer about you. It's about the pack. It's about the team. And so that's a hard thing to do, because the whole time these young men have been growing up playing baseball or whatever it is they're doing, they live in a me-first culture. I mean, you can turn on any highlights of any sport, and you can see it's look at me. Look at me. And look at me does not do well here within our pack. We need you to be a small part of a big sum. And so when you recruit 40 alpha males and you get them all in one organization, and you tell them, now we need you to be really, really humble, really strong, it takes time. And so we had to put together a system where we could build to something big. And then the first thing you have to do in a pack is you have to build the wolf. And if you've ever studied a pack of wolves, it's an amazing thing to watch, because each wolf has a specific job to do. If a wolf stands alone and tries to take out a buffalo by himself, he's going to get killed. But if everybody works within the confines of who they are and what their specific job is, collectively they take down this buffalo. And so that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is have a mentality that, again, it transcends baseball. It's not just about baseball. We need this mentality when they leave us, when they graduate and they go to the workforce, to go out-compete your competition. That's all we're trying to do, is out-compete your competition. Play for something that's no longer about you. And again, because it's different, because it takes humility. And again, you're never going to get through any of the other virtues in life until you can walk through the gates of humility. I mean, that's scripture that tells us that right there. Excuse me. So, if we're going to develop them mentally, physically, and spiritually, that's going to be a well-rounded individual. And when we recruit a young man, that's what we're telling their parents. When they leave here, we're going to do everything we can to make them a better person than when they got here. And what's been unique is that, chances are their baseball career is going to be over when they're about 22, 23 years old. But we spent so much time developing them as a baseball player, making them stronger, making them faster, throw harder, hit farther. So their career is over at 23 years of age. Well, if they live to be 83 years old, that's 60 years they have to live on who they are as a man. So what we need to do as coaches is we have to work on that development as a young man. Discipline, accountability, in the way they dress. Our day starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so we have to outwork our competition, right? So that starts our mindset. You can't be mentally tough until you're physically tough. So that works together. But again, we spent so much time trying to develop them as a baseball player that we forget who they are as a man. You can see it every single day on ESPN, on SportsCenter, where this athlete gets in trouble, beating his wife, whatever the case may be. It's who they are as a man that's getting them in trouble. It's not their sport that's getting them in trouble. But we spend so much time and effort and money trying to develop them as an athlete. When we're losing our society right now because we're not developing these young men excuse me, to function a little bit better. So it's not a win at all cost for us here. Winning has become a byproduct of the PAC system. And it's not something that we invented. We stole it, we borrowed it, we copied it, we manipulated it to fit who we are. And what we're trying to basically do is teach these young men to live right side up in an upside down world. What used to be wrong is now right. What used to be right is now wrong. I mean, the world is in a mess right now. And so these young men don't know if they're coming or going. Society is in a mess. And for us, if we got to develop them mentally, physically, we can do that. That's easy. The third and most important part is spiritually. And so what our program does is once a week we offer faith sharing and Bible study. Right? Nobody's going to leave our program and say, man, Coach never talked about God. He never talked about faith. My mentor, who I learned from, passed away 2 summers ago, Tony Robichaux. And one of the things he always used to say is, if and when we get to heaven, he doesn't think God's going to have plyo boxes and a stopwatch to see how high this kid can jump or how fast he is in the 60. He's not going to care how many games I've won. What he's going to tell me is, I've sent you hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of young men. What'd you do with them? Please tell me you did more than just made him a good baseball player. Did you even mention me? Did you even talk about me? But see, because a good coach is going to take a young man and make him a better baseball player. A great coach is going to take that young man and make him a better person. So I'm going to spend every single day that I possibly can trying to be a great coach.
All right, well, Coach, thank you again for your time. We appreciate it. You can contribute to Coach Gonzalez and the Javelina Baseball Program by visiting javelinagiving.org/oneday or by texting Go Hogs to 202-858-1233. The Javelina Coaches Caravan will roll on at 12:15. We'll talk to the head Javelina women's golf coach, Stephanie Gray. We hope to have you back with us for that. But, Coach, then, again, thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. My pleasure being here.